Hi, so we are going to learn how to install Arduino. You can download Win 7 and newer version. This is easier version to install. Or you can download zip file and unzip the file. If you're a Mac user, you can just click this. If you use Google Book or things like that, you can install this version. You can choose different version of the Arduino, like for example older version or specific software, but at this moment I think it will be easy to install this version. After you click what software you want to download, you will see this website. It's totally your choice. You can just download or you can contribute and donate. And after that, you will see file downloading. And it will take a while, and I will see you after it is completed. Now it's completed, and you will see this file. We are going to install Arduino software. Double click this file. Now you see this window and press I agree, and then keep going. And it will take a while again to install the software, so I will see you after it is completed. Before we write the code, I would like to apologize again. Somehow the software is not working very well and it stopped doing the screen recording. So what I'm gonna do is I will do the screenshot and I will explain as much as I can. And it's very simple, so you can follow very easily. Go to menu, click Arduino, and you will see this first screen. And we are going to delete everything and we start programming our own. So first thing, I would like to emphasize that it's a great habit to save your file even before you do anything, because you don't want to lose your work after you put certain amount of time and effort. So what I would do is saving file. So I go to file on the menu on the top of your Arduino tab, and then go to save, and then you can name whatever you want. I named sound test, but you can name whatever you want. So there's a certain rules to save the file name. So you and computer have this language between you and communicate, right? So there are some rules. Like normal language has a grammar like a rule, but computer programming, coding, there different software has a different rule, but there are some common rules. So file name, you cannot use any symbols. So no period, no comma, no semicolon, no dash. Only one you can do is underscore. So I use underscore when I try to name my file as two words. For example, sound underscore test, right? I don't have to put underscore. If I want to do that, I just put sound test in the one word. That's totally fine. So there's certain rules, and also computer takes a capital letter and non-capital letter differently. I will point out when we have to use a capital letter and we don't have to use a capital letter, but there are some rules into it. So we need to be careful with those. And normally a lot of errors comes with that. Even very experienced computer programmer, they sometimes make those mistakes and then they have to troubleshoot. So please keep that in mind, and then you can name whatever and then just save the file, and then now delete everything, and then we're gonna type from the beginning. So when you start programming or coding, there's no space. when you give a space, or we call it indentation, there's a special place that we call it body. So let's just start typing int, int, all small letter. It means integer, so it's a number, right? Integer is not decimal, it's integer. So integer space, so what it says is like, oh, this is an integer. I'm telling the computer through the software, Arduino software, this is integer. What is integer? Sound pin is integer. I just named it sound pin. Okay, so why I call it pin? Because Arduino, the hardware that I explained to you in this different video, there's a pin, right? So there is two different kind of pin. If you remember, there's an analog pin and then digital pin. So I'm going to assign the pin, I'm gonna call it sound pin, which is equal to A0. Okay, if you remember, I said the A0, A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, it's all different pin, and we have to assign the pin, and then we have to communicate to the computer, hey, I'm going to use A0, I'm going to use A1, I'm going to use A2, things like that. So what is the first line so far is telling me? Okay, I'm going to put the pin connecting my mic to A0. Okay, so let's say I connected my mic to A1 and then call software A0. There's no communication, right? So vice versa, if I assigned A1 as my pin, but I plugged my mic to different pin, then there's no communication, right? So that's like number one troubleshooting that you can do, is always a checking. Hey, is my software is assigned correctly, and I plug the things on the right position, right? So right now, I so far said, okay, I'm gonna input. There is an input at A0, and I'm gonna call sound pin, and that's integer, which is number. And everything looks okay. You put the semicolon at the end. Semicolon means, hey, I'm done communicating with you. So let's say like I'm talking to you through the walkie-talkie, and whatever I say is done, then I say over, right? So you know that my whatever message is done, right? It's the same thing like computer. I just said whatever I want to say, it's over, semicolon. So if there's no semicolon, then you will see the error. Okay, now you press enter and then go to next line. I try to space it out. I like to space out things because it's easy to read. But if you want to condense it down, go ahead, write right away. Just write void space setup parenthesis open parenthesis close. Okay, what does that mean is like, hey, I'm gonna call it setup, which is kind of the rule of the programming. Like I have to set up something, and then parenthesis means I'm gonna write something below. And then now there's a braces, no indentation, and then you just enter. Then we have to give indentation. I normally press tab once, and you can do the space. But it has to be same space whenever you use. So there's a rule that if you have a braces, and then you have an indentation, and then if you have another braces under the one braces, you have another indentation. So the computer knows that, oh, you were telling me something under this command. We call this a command because I'm commanding the computer, right? So we call it serial.begin. Serial has to be bold. When you type serial, it appears as bold because it's a very, very important command. And it has to be capital. If you capital S. If you don't put capital S, it does not appear bold, I believe. So bold is kind of checking that this is a special language for Arduino, or very, very important. So it's just like a kind of like telling you, a computer programmer, hey, you're using this important code, so before you when you review, it catches your eyes. So capital letter S, serial, dot, no space, begin, parenthesis, 9600, and close parenthesis and semicolon, and enter and do the braces. So 9600 is, you will see when you play with tools and monitors and things like that, it's bowed. It's I'm gonna tell you at the end, but this has to be matching with your setup or monitor, like, so like it doesn't have any miscommunication between output and input. So after you doing that, press enter, and then we're gonna write second code, which is a lot of things happening, like execution is happening, calculation is happening, and things like that. So we're gonna type void space loop, open parenthesis and close parentheses. So loop is common. I think it's all, any languages use a loop. Loop means it goes over and over and over and over again, like a looping, right? So this is a very powerful language, common in a way, because a lot of calculation requires the same execution. For example, 1 plus 1 equals 2, right? And then you want to plus 1 again, plus 1 again, plus 1 again. When do you want to do that? When you count time, when you count how many times you did it. So you're telling computer, hey, how many times I press letter A. For example, like how many times the people visit my website. They all use a loop. So like a counting or counting time, 1 second, 2 second, 3 second, things like that. So this is a very powerful tool, as you can see. And then press enter and then put braces, and then we give a space indentation, and then you can say long, long. Long means it's gonna be long. It's like digits gonna be long. It can be like million or billion, so it can be long digit. So I'm telling computer, hey, it's gonna be long digit, just prepare, right? And then space sum. So I'm gonna call this a sum because it will be summation. Right? So I'm just assigning again, sum equals 0 and semicolon. Why is it 0? Because I'm assigning, this number, I don't know what this number gonna be end up, but this gonna be a long number, and because this gonna be the summation of everything. But right now it's 0 because initial is 0. So computer is very blank, doesn't have any information, nothing, right? So I need to give them initial number, otherwise your computer get really confused. I was like, what is you call it sum, but I don't know where it starts, right? So it gives you error. So now we set the initial number. So you hit enter, and then 4. So we another language call it for loop, because loop and for is come together. So for is like a condition. Okay, I'm looping, but I cannot loop forever, right? That's a lot of effort and time, and I don't know when to stop, right? So you are giving them a condition. So open parenthesis int. What is int again? Integer, right? So it's a number. I'm gonna give you a condition which is number, and computer gonna think like, oh, okay, condition is not so complex. I was like, okay, it's integer, I'm prepared, right? So now you were telling them, okay, I'm gonna call this number I. We use I a lot for the condition for the loop, because I integer I. Right, so I equals 0. So I'm giving you I again, assigned number, right? I is a begin from 0, and then semicolon. I'm done with the first condition, and that I is less than 100. So I gonna be less than 100. So if I reaches 100 and more, nothing happened. Don't do anything. Okay, so I is less than 100, a semicolon, and then I plus plus. I plus plus means i's keep increasing one by one, and then it's less than 100, so you stop at 99. So that's a condition. So it goes by initial, and then less than 100, and then how much increase is a one by one. So after you've done that, enter, and then you put brace. So that tells me, okay, under that condition, I'm doing something again. Okay, so indentation, and then I call it sum, which is I'm calling back. You know, I assigned earlier that sum gonna be the end number, which is gonna be long, and you start from 0. So right now its sum is a 0, right? And then plus equal. Plus equal is another special calculation sign for the computer programming. So that means sum is adding on top of sum. So in the condition of the for, I plus plus is I is keep increasing, right? Like one by one by one by one. But this sum is adding whatever calling next on top of it. So it's a more like accumulation. You're taking as accumulation. So sum plus equals to, like I'm assigning, right? So analog read. So analog is small letter, R capital letter, read. So that's a special language for Arduino. Analog. Analog, you're reading the analog input. Read, you're reading it, right? Arduino, you read, you know, that's what basically you were saying. And then what you're reading is sound pin. Sound pin, it sounds familiar. We assign the sound pin from the first line, right? Which is A0. So what is this telling computer is, hey, sum is like reading from the input from A0. So basically, hey, like sum is A0, right? But we have to let them know you have to read, and you have to let them know that you have to convert it to the number, and you have to let them know that it's a sum. I hope everything is good. Okay, so everything is assigned. Okay, you put semicolon and enter, and then you close the brace. And now I'm going to call sum equals the sum divided by 4 and semicolon. Okay, and then enter, and then you assign print, right? You want to see the monitor, right? You want to plotting, right? So capital S serial dot print ln. So that is telling me that, hey, show me the numbers that you are getting, print out, right? So you're communicating to the computer, hey, I want to see the number. Which number? I want to see the sum. Okay, so you put sum. If you want to see, I want to see what direct input from A0, 1, and then you can put A0. Or if you want to do something like a different calculation, you can put it there. And then you close the parenthesis and semicolon and enter. So close brace and you're done. And now what you need to do is save again so you don't lose anything. And then you look left corner on top, you see the check mark. Click that check mark and you will compile your code. After compiling is done, you will see the green box at the bottom of your Arduino coding window, and it says compiling is completed. And when you see that message, you are all done. Okay, now when you see on the top of your Arduino window again, next to the check mark you see the arrow. So click that arrow and it will upload your code to the Arduino. So after it is done, you will see successful message at the bottom of your Arduino window. When it says completed, you're done. If you see error message when you try to compile or upload, make sure your Arduino is connected and assigned in the right comp. So if everything is okay, then please go over your software and then check everything is okay and everything is in the right place for the hardware connection, mic and pin and voltage and everything. Okay, after that everything is good, then you can go to tools and put serial monitor, and you will see all the numbers going really fast. And if you want to see the plot, then you do the same thing. Go to tools and click serial plotter. I always disregard the signal at the beginning 4 seconds or so because sometimes it takes time to settle everything. So if you see wacky signals at the beginning, please ignore that. Just throw that signals away at the beginning. And then you can see the signal after. That's probably good signals to take into consideration. Yeah, that's it. You did it. And test it out and try different things, and that's how we learn, right? Thank you so much for your patience, and I hope you enjoyed and had fun playing with the toy, your new toy. And I hope to see you at school, and hopefully we do this in person sometime soon.